Hey, everybody. Mark and I have over 20 years of experience as therapists and as addicts in long-term successful recovery. We know better than anyone what works and what doesn't to break out of porn and sex addiction, heal betrayal trauma, and reclaim your relationship.
And we've poured all of our personal and professional recovery and healing experience into a first-of-its-kind program for addicts, spouses, and couples. We call it Dare to Connect.
At least 4 times every week, we engage with you in real time, in the trenches, giving you the knowledge and the tools to take back your life and relationship.
Whatever else you've done on your journey for healing and recovery, you've never done anything like this.
Mark and I, we've made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. Don't reinvent the wheel.
We all know tomorrow never comes. Look, don't wait one more day to change. Claim your free 2-week trial today at daretoconnectnow.com.
Hey, everybody. I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSC Squared podcast.
Hey, everybody. Mark and Steve here. Happy New Year.
Yes, yes.
It is 2021. Can you believe 2020 is gone?
Oh, I can't.
That's the wrong
believe...
question, right? Are you glad 2020 is gone?
Yeah, I was going to say, there were many things that I really am grateful for about 2020. So I don't want to sound ungrateful, but yes, I would love to not have another 2020 in many respects as well. So.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons it's a Happy New Year, because 2020 is over.
Yes.
But you can see from the title of this episode, ditch the New Year's resolution BS. It doesn't work.
Hey, we just say it like it is,
Yeah, we know that might sound a little harsh, but I have to tell you, and I know Steve, I think I speak for you on this as well. This is one of our favorite topics in the entire world, because we have experienced this right at the deepest level. New Year's resolutions as the way to change.
Yes.
And we have so many stories about why this isn't effective over
extremely embarrassing
close
stories.
to a lifetime. Yes. And so our New Year's gift to all of you, our listeners, is to talk about our just plethora of failures with regard to New Year's resolutions. And then we're going to get into some really awesome neuroscience about why New Year's resolutions fail, because they go against the very way that the human brain is structured for change. And then talk about what does work. If the New Year's resolution doesn't work, how do you come at it if you want 2021 to be a different kind of year for you? So we're gonna delve in and jump into all of those things. So let's just quick talk about New Year's resolutions and why they don't work. And Steve and I are going to try to get as raw and embarrassingly vulnerable as we can about our various attempts over the decades for New Year's resolutions.
Jeez. Or goal setting in general.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
so let's quickly kind of jump into some of the neuroscience on this. So here's one, and this is one of the very confusing parts about change. It's also confusing about recovery. Yeah. Because when life gets unmanageable, painful, lousy, crappy, we pound our fist on the table after our last binge or act out, and we say, that's the last time I'm going to do that. Yes. I am changing, right? We're crazy motivated. And a very similar thing happens at the first of the year. We have this energy, this excitement, this tradition, right? This expectation that this is going to be my year. This is the time that everything is going to change and be amazing. And that energy is very legitimate. We're not here on this podcast to say, well, that's bad. You shouldn't be enthusiastic. You shouldn't be motivated. You shouldn't look for opportunities to make a new start. That's all true. But you need to know something about the brain so that you can step back and have the best chance of success, hopefully this year. So novelty in the human brain produces a lot of instant energy. I like to call it the racehorse out of the gate syndrome. Right, we're excited. We're just picture this excited, crazy, rambunctious racehorse that's being kept behind that gate at the racetrack, and the energy's building and the enthusiasm is peaking, and all of a sudden the bell goes off, ring, and the gate flies open, and that racehorse is just charging down the track, right, full speed, and he's saying, "Yes, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to change. Everything's going to be different. Just look at my energy, and my enthusiasm, and my speed. This is incredible." And of course, right, the big joke is, and when you follow along on the racetrack, you get about a lap and a half around, and what do you see?
Burned out horses.
Right. The enthusiastic racehorse looks very different now, and just sort of laying on the track, hopefully not entirely dead, hopefully just half dead, and and basically everything is gone. Everything is, all that initial energy, you just look at it, go, where did it go?
Yeah.
And that's what happens to us with regard to these New Year's resolutions. We're very excited. We're in the tradition, the feeling, the ringing in, the ball dropping at Times Square, right? The environment of it is very infectious.
Yes.
It's like, wow.
Well, and we really want to, and to be clear, we aren't anti. We're going to kind of refer to this as that novelty energy, right?
Yes.
To be clear, we're not saying novelty energy is a bad thing.
Not at all.
Be it beginning of the year or after a long binge in our addiction, or whatever it might be. That energy can be really positive and can be helpful and a good catalyst for the process. The problem is, like Mark you're saying, is that it's not sustainable, right?
Right. It's wonderful to get us started, but the problem is that we believe that it will be the thing that maintains us.
Yeah.
We believe that energy can just continue, endlessly, and that's where neuroscience comes in. The brain is not built to maintain an energy surge at that level for an extended period of time. It can't.
Yeah.
It would literally burn us out. Well, and how many of you and you and I have felt this?
Yeah.
The exuberance of the New Year's resolution, the 2-3 weeks of absolute pedal to the metal effort. And what happens? You burn yourself out.
Yeah.
You literally are the racehorse collapsed on the track. And it's not because you're a loser, you don't have the, adequate motivation or skills or whatever, or desire. It's that your brain just doesn't have the capacity. It isn't designed to do it.
Yeah, you're using a temporary system to try to induce long-term change.
Yeah.
I mean, I read something the other day, and I'm sure the statistic is probably old now, but something like 75% or more of the money that the gym membership industry makes happens either like during Christmas / the New Year, right? Either like right before or right after, either as Christmas gifts or things that we buy for ourselves. And I know from my experience, I'm talking about this is anyone who's been to the gym in January, those first couple of weeks, knows what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Like, you've got a better chance of getting on Magic Mountain at Disneyland than you do getting a treadmill at the gym. Like, it is. I remember distinctly one time I did this. I signed up for the gym pass. I'm like, yes, this is the year. And I go there all excited. I got my new workout clothes. I got my new whatever. Of course. And there is literally, for every single machine, every single one, this gym is big. It had like 15 treadmills. There's a flipping line of like 12 people, 12 schmucks just like me, all waiting in line to use a treadmill. And I'm just like, and we're all wearing our new gym outfits and our new whatever. We're all like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so we in that gym took 2 hours, but then you go back in 3 weeks, right? At last week of January, first week of February, and you've got that old guy in the corner who's always there when you go. You have that one, that one mother who's, there every day when her kids are at school. And then there's the tumbleweed rolling through the gym. And it's like it.
I know. Yep, it's the gym in
Oh.
January and then every month thereafter.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's just so funny.
But hey, they got your money, so they're good to go.
So it's
Yeah.
really important as as you're listening to this, as we're introing, what to do to start your year off right and get real change in process. First is realize your enthusiasm isn't bad. It is good. It's actually also good to write some goals down. We're
Yes.
not saying that, you shouldn't write things down. You shouldn't have a vision in your mind of where you want to get to. That's good. But the way I grew up and through much of my adult life, goal setting was the be all end all. That's it. It's
Yes.
all about setting goals. Whatever the mind of man can believe and conceive, it can achieve. And don't get me started with that one because it's absolutely not true.
I could just hear like I just heard in your voice the first decade of your existence coming out right there and the way you rattled that off.
Seriously, it's just like,
It's awesome.
give me a break. The positive mental attitude movement, the PMA movement, did more to contribute to my addiction than maybe anything else besides religious shame. So the novelty, the energy's good, the initial enthusiasm, writing stuff down, that's all great. But it's not going to carry any of us through because you can't sustain it.
Yeah.
Now, Steve and I know about goal setting. And we were talking before the podcast and sharing some war stories about declaring the new goal and how awesome it's going to be. And I love what you said, Steve. You called them blood oaths,
Yeah.
right? We do these blood oaths. This one's going to be the one.
This is it.
This year is going to be the year, right?
Yeah.
It's serious this time.
Totally.
And so I was thinking about that, and besides New Year's resolutions, which I would do every year, coupled with New Year's resolutions was me finding the new time management system.
Yeah.
Along with my New Year's resolution, right back in the old Franklin Covey daytimer days, and it needed to be a different size. This needs to be a genuine leather binder because the binder I had last year was vinyl, and that was why it just didn't take hold.
That's why it didn't take hold. I wasn't invested enough.
So my wife has a big joke. I used to have this plastic tub, one of the moving tubs or storage tubs, and it was filled with all Mark's time management binder systems from like the last decade.
Geez.
Oh my gosh. It's just so crazy, right? That was going to be the thing.
Yeah.
Right? Oh man.
Well, and we make these commitments, at these rapid insight times, and it's not that the overall goal is bad, but yeah, one element that we need to keep in mind here too is oftentimes we will try to give up or give away behaviors or things that really we're not ready to. We're more in love with the idea of it rather than the actual commitment to it.
That's a great point, right?
The
idea of it, the feeling of it, the vision of it.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I went to a religious camp every year for a couple of years, and it was this awesome experience. I'd like feel the spirit, and it was really good. And I remember one year I came back, and I was a video game addict simultaneously around the time that I was also a porn addict. They were kind of cross addictions for me, and I remember I came back from one of these camps. For some reason in my mind, those games are the devil incarnate, and they have got to go. So I remember I'm on the drive home. I'm like, you could see the grit on my face. You could almost hear like the Remember the Titans theme music playing in the background. Like I'm ready to go. And I get home. First thing I do before I unpack, I go upstairs. I get all my video games together. I take a shoebox. I go out into the yard and ceremonially with a hammer, I smash every single computer game that I've got, right? As much as I could on the old CDs. And then I buried it all scriptural style. And
buried it down in the earth.
Yes. And then 2 weeks later, within 2 weeks,
I think I did it at night because I was too embarrassed. I went out there with a flashlight and was desperately digging it up like a heroin addict looking for an empty needle. And I'm sitting there in the dark trying to piece the CDs back together. Like, what have I done? I've made a mistake.
What have I done?
Oh,
Well, and as
geez.
you share that,
Oh.
and as I look back on my equivalent of that, I laugh about it now, but I have to tell you that there was nothing laughable about it. In fact, it's one of the more shaming recollections of my addiction years. So I'd come upon these, big spiritual experience awakenings or New Year's resolutions, or another time I'd make big giant declarations would be coming up on my wedding anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to joke and say birthdays. So here I am, a grown man sitting with my family. The candles are on the cake, and the part comes where you blow them out and make a wish.
Yep.
And my wish every birthday for like 15 years or more was to stop being a porn addict. But nobody there
Yeah.
knew it. They said, "What did you wish? What did you wish?" And I'm smiling like I've wished the typical thing, like, big house, success, vacation to Hawaii. Oh no, Mark's birthday wish every time was to stop being such a pathetic, depraved loser. That
Yeah.
was every birthday. So with those events, with those big declarations like we're talking about, so what I would do is I would go get my porn stash, which in the
Mhm.
early days of addiction were magazines, and I'd take them and I'd go bury them right out in the
Mhm.
field deep, or rip them to shreds and put them in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Right? I'm done. This is it. And then here's the shameful part. 2 or 3 or 4 days later, where would you find Mark?
Back out in the dumpster, man.
His legs are dangling out of the top of the dumpster as he's dumpster diving to try to find where he put those blasted things and to continue the shame. Then going back secretly trying to piece together the torn pages that he had ripped in shreds.
Yes.
Oh
Absolutely.
my gosh, you're just like, you can't make this stuff up. And to look back at it, at this point in my healthy recovery, I seriously can't tell you that I honestly know who that guy was. It's
Yeah.
difficult to get back into that mindset, thank goodness.
No kidding.
But
Well,
here
and
are
I,
these attempts and these failures up and down and the
oh
big
gosh.
declarations, and didn't it put you in a place where you get to the place where you were so tired of making the bold declarations and then failing that you got to where you just didn't dare make them anymore?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I got to where I said, New Year's resolutions, I'll never make another one as long as I live.
Yeah.
It's just going to shame me to my core because I know that I'm never going to honor it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Nope. It's like it leads to that kind of an extreme form, that insanity that we talk about, where you and I have both experienced, but maybe some of our addict listeners have experienced the same. It's like I've got two parts of my brain. Even as the one part is sincerely trying to say, "We're gonna beat this," but it's almost more of a question now than a declaration. We're gonna beat this, right? Kind of like scared.
Yeah, we're gonna do this right.
The other half of my brain is like, "Yeah, sure, you do what you want, but I give it till like Thursday." Like that's probably the day.
No.
Like I remember thinking that way. It was like, yeah,
I
I think I
know.
could probably make it to maybe the weekend, like if I really push, and it's so sad. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, we call it the inevitability factor, right? As we're making these
Yes.
legitimate, sincere desires to change. I mean, Steve and I are not trying to say that when you and I make these efforts that we're somehow insincere or we're hypocrites or duplicitous. We're not saying that at all. They're very sincere. They come from a place of yearning to
Yeah.
step out of this false self and to be something better that I know I am. I know I can get there and I want
Yeah.
to, and I'm exerting the energy to do so. Why does it always fall apart?
Yeah, we've got to take that healthy energy, and rather than just relying on it, we've got to couple it with some good things that we talked about. So we probably ought to
let's jump to
shift
that
over
right
to that
now, right? That energy is great. In fact, I highly encourage you that if you feel that initial momentum, use it, right?
Yeah.
Rely on it. But we're going to ask you to make a tweak perhaps in your thinking. And this might go against a lifetime of programming about how New Year's resolutions and goal setting works.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you it's not about the goal. Yes, That's a piece of it, to have an eventual outcome in mind, to write it down generally, but that isn't the most important part. It's about systems.
Yeah.
If you have a goal, but you don't have a daily simple system to plug that goal into, your chances of success are almost zero. So
Yeah.
we want to talk about systems. We want you, right? Set systems, not New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
What is my system that I'm going to put together and adhere to? Hey everybody, Mark and Steve here. Are you looking to take your recovery and your marriage to the next level?
We work with individuals and couples one-on-one.
With both in-person and online therapy options, you have access to the experts anytime, anywhere.
To learn more, visit us at tbscpodcast.com. Well, and I think and that involves a couple of good things, right? Because you're absolutely right. I think you've got to lay the actual groundwork for the thing to happen, right? Rather than just jumping to I think that's what we're really talking about, is don't just immediately jump to the result, right?
Yes.
It's about realistically mapping the road to that place and then starting on that road without trying to quantum leap to the end destination.
Exactly right.
Right. And so like what that might look like, for example, and you and I have talked about this before, a huge part of neurobiological change. I tell clients this all the time. It has a lot less to do with what you're doing. It's more about, first of all, just getting into that consistency pattern, right? Being consistent at something, anything, even if it's just little.
It's totally true. And I remember years ago when I was doing a lot of research in the neuroscience of addiction, there was a particular brilliant professor up at a university who was the head of their addiction center. I remember sitting down with him and just saying, so come on, tell me, how does change really work?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I said, it's just about just discipline and willpower, right? You got to do big stuff that takes a lot of time, and you just got to find a way to dedicate yourself to it. And I remember he looked at me and he said, Mark, you've got it exactly wrong. He said, I've been studying this for 30 years with humans and rats. He did a lot of rat brain experiments that you couldn't do on humans. He said it's exactly the opposite of what everybody thinks with these big, positive mental attitude movements and New Year's resolutions and goals. He says, let me tell you what it is. He says, you take something that takes very, very little time and very, very little effort, and you do it consistently, no matter what, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Period. He said, that is the point. Little time, little effort, consistent over the long haul. He said, in all of our neuro research for 30 years, that's what brings change, lasting change.
For sure. Well, and that so speaks to the opposite, I think, of what I think probably human nature is in general, but specifically us addicts and pain avoidant people and all those things is like for me, this is owning it. Hopefully this doesn't call into question my professional capacity, but graduate school was the perfect example of this for me, right? My graduate program was all about, we did almost no exams. There were huge board exams at the end of it to get licensed with the state, but the degree itself, there were very little exams. It was all group projects and papers, 10 to 15 page papers, just a mountain of them. It was probably between all the classes, it was averaging like one a week that needed to be done.
One paper a week.
Yeah, and so it was a lot. It was a lot of writing, in-depth, rigorous writing and research and all that stuff. And I remember, but the thing is none of this stuff was due because there were no assignments leading up to it. It was all either due at the midterm or the end of the term. And so you would see me at either, if you were to peek into my condo at the time and looked in, we were just off of our university campus at like 4 a.m. I'm sitting there at the computer, bloodshot eyes, like with this just zombie-like look on my face with the screen glow, mind-numbingly typing out like my 25th page of like 40 pages worth of stuff that's due in like 12 hours.
With a pile of 12 empty Mountain Dew cans.
Exactly. No, that's we talked about that before. I'm glad you reminded me. Literally, like I've got the old 12 pack of Mountain Dew, and there's just a set of empty ones there, and I'm just cranking another one, and I'm on my 45th cup of coffee's worth of caffeine.
And that's a great example. But how often do we literally do what you just said in our New Year's resolutions or recovery or healing or whatever it is, right? There's this part of us, the ego impatient, get it done now part, that wants to just toss out the window all the neuroscience facts. The
yes.
brain doesn't change that way. It
Yeah.
can't. It can't sustain that kind of energy drain on a regular basis. And here's the irony. I find this so ironic today. So I made all those bold declarations of how I was going to change, get out of addiction or reach goals or whatever in this quick, dramatic racehorse fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And in taking that approach and expending those gargantuan amounts of energy, guess what I set myself up for? Total burnout,
Yep.
total collapse, and actually increasing the reasons and the odds to go back to the very thing I was trying to break out of.
Well, and sometimes even deepening it, right?
Yes, deepening it.
Deepening the addiction.
I know, right? Isn't that, you're just like, wait, I was trying to change and now I'm
Yes.
deeper than ever.
Absolutely.
And it's
No,
because of the way we're coming at it, right?
Yeah, it's a real it's that, and kind of going back to my school example, the thing to keep in mind too is that not only is that the most painful way to do it, but you gain the least benefit from it.
Right.
Not only does it not last, I got really good grades in grad school and I learned a lot, don't get me wrong. But could I have absolutely learned and internalized more if I hadn't done this? Oh yeah, for
Totally.
sure.
Yep.
Right? And it
It's
would have
totally.
been far less painful as well going through.
So if we're going to talk about kind of some principles of change, sort of let's jettison the New Year's resolution tradition
Yep.
and let's talk about what actually works.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not about quality or quantity. I mean, we would like to see the quality be high, no matter how much time you're spending, but it's especially not about time expended. It's all about consistency,
Yes.
right? A little bit each day rather than, the weekend warrior,
Cramming.
if I do a big giant effort, that will be the biggest benefit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how the brain works. It's one little teeny tiny thing that I do each day, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I know, Steve, for example, with your clients, and I do this too, daily journaling their feelings, starting to get in touch with what they're feeling inside, right? How long do you have them do it in the part of your program?
Literally 5 minutes. Almost
5
every
minutes.
client, my clients that are listening will know this. I start them off with 5 minutes of journaling, and that's usually maybe with one other small thing is what they'll get out of the first session with me. And you can almost hear it. You can almost hear it in the air when I tell them. They're just kind of like, that's it. I'm like, oh, no. There's like 10,000 things we're going to be doing, but this is where we're going to start. Well, I can do that easy. Like that's not going to take. And I'll say, well, first of all, if you're struggling with addiction, it might be harder to examine your feelings the way we're talking about than you think.
And yeah.
It's a long 5 minutes, but two, we're trying to develop exactly what, Mark, you're talking about here, right? It's the training of the brain to get uncomfortable for a little bit of time every day, to get aware with itself, to be present with itself, even for just 5 minutes.
Well, and I remember the example that this brilliant addiction professor, after 30 years of research, he gave me his favorite example of what was actually helping his addicts' brains to rewire. It was making your bed every morning.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yep.
He would have them do that for 30 days in order to begin to rewire the brain that had no discipline and had no consistency.
Yes.
Make your bed every day.
Absolutely.
What?
Well, and that kind of brings up not just to start off small, it brings up something that you were talking about earlier, which I really love, and that's the piggybacking process, right? Where possible, we want to be trying to link these new areas of change with already pre-existing habits.
One of the greatest, let's call it a shortcut, right, to change, if you want to call it that. But I like to call it working with your brain instead of against it.
Yeah.
The brain resists these giant, massive changes all at one time. It doesn't like it because it spends a lifetime building habits which are efficient. I don't
Yeah.
have to think about whether I'm going to do these things. That
Mhm.
gives me energy to look at other stuff. The brain loves efficiency.
Yep.
And you come in and try to just change that in one big fell swoop, and the brain rebels.
Yeah.
But if you can piggyback, so think of something that you already do on a daily basis, and then link this new small behavior to that.
Yes.
And you gave a
Absolutely.
great example of, you're not alone in this. One of the New Year's resolutions is I'm going to become healthy, fit, and, a 12-pack ab. And so it was so hilarious. You said, you and your wife with the New Year's resolution, you go to the store and you empty the entire produce aisle of all green living foods.
Oh yeah.
You haul 3 shopping carts out to your car.
Oh yeah. We're like organic earth embodied, like wheeling into the car, and we're riding this high ride of like, look how noble this is. We have turned our and we're almost kind of looking at other people with this. Okay, my wife probably isn't, but I am, jokingly, but also somewhat seriously, looking at everyone else with like this look of disdain, like, you poor peasants. If you only knew how much you were poisoning your bodies, I can't believe that you would ever deign to do something like that. So we set off on this kick, right? And then what happens Friday night? My wife or the other, thankfully we're less like this, but too many times one of us has looked at the other and quietly just been like, so we gonna like just do Chinese tonight because I'm sick of it.
Because I'm sick of this green stuff for the past 5 days.
And so then what do? We now have a pile of rotting foliage in our fridge that we should just hang an imaginary sign on that just says unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. The fridge full of rotting produce, the tub full of outdated daytimers,
Yes.
the addiction recovery system sitting on our shelves. These are all evidences of this crazy novelty, massive motivation approach.
When it feels good, right? Because we're doing
Sure.
something. It feels like we're taking control, and that's a good feeling. But the problem is again, we're trying to take control in an unrealistic way.
Yeah, exactly. So in your example, so if we talk about piggybacking, so
Yeah.
let's say that you decide not to completely empty your pantry and stick every food item you own in the trash because you're going to start
Mm-hmm.
fresh.
Yeah.
So you keep the potato chips, and you're about to sit on the couch and eat the potato chips.
Yeah.
How piggybacking is, you say, before I will eat potato chips, I am going to eat an apple
Yeah. Yes.
every time,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what.
Yep.
And that's piggybacking, and that's a simple little consistent little thing you can do for your New Year's resolution to eat better. Eat an apple
Absolutely.
before I eat potato chips.
Yes. Well, and you're creating that neurobiological change, but I think you're also starting to for me, I find it therapeutic, when I do this with clients, because it helps the brain kind of directly experience the consequences of both choices right in the moment.
Yes, I have
Well,
contrast. Yes.
yeah, after I eat the apple, I feel great. After I eat the potato chips, I need a nap. And it's like, where's that coming from?
Yeah, you get to see it, right?
You absolutely do.
So
Absolutely do.
piggybacking, if you have something else you're trying to do, like I'm going to do 5 minutes of journaling.
Yes.
Well, I piggyback that to brushing my teeth.
Uh-huh.
Let's say I'm obsessed with brushing my teeth. I would never let a night go by that I did not brush my teeth. Well, I would say before you allow yourself to brush your teeth, you journal for 5 minutes.
Yep.
You piggyback them.
Absolutely.
So it's taking advantage of existing habits that the brain is much more willing to link things to because it's already doing that other thing.
Yeah,
Much
absolutely.
easier. So a couple final things. One of those is when you do these little tiny things consistently and you manage to just do them on a daily basis, celebrate the victory. You know what?
Yeah.
I ate a half bag of potato chips, but doggone it, I ate that apple first.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back. Give yourself a high five.
Yeah.
Little victories matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this self-compassion, self-kindness about giving yourself credit for what you are doing is a big part of reinforcing these new behaviors in the brain. The brain loves reward. The brain loves victory. So we just encourage you to do that. So we're going to give you a final assignment. Instead of the New Year's resolution, we're going to invite you to do a couple things. So pick one thing. Now, this is hard, but one thing that you would like to change in 2021. One thing. And yes, write it down, give some detail to it. Sure. That's really important. And once you have that one thing written down, now we want you to choose just 2 or 3 very simple things that you're going to do on a daily basis to gradually work toward the achievement of that goal. Very
Yes.
small, just 2 or 3 small things like we've been talking. And you're going to commit to us to do those 2 or 3 small things each day for 30 days.
Yep.
Now your brain's saying, well, first of all, that 2 or 3 small things, that's ridiculous. I need to try my big way this year again.
Yeah.
And if you do, okay, try it. And then 2 weeks from now, you're going, oh crap. Okay, what did Mark and Steve say? Or we
Yeah.
really encourage you to just try it this way right out of the gate. So there's
Yeah.
2 or 3 small things for 30 days. And then what happens after 30 days, Steve?
Well, after 30 days, then you just take a look back, right? Realistically, and again, this is probably easiest to do with a therapist who can kind of hold you accountable and give you an impartial view. But there are others as well. But take a look at the changes that you've experienced emotionally, mentally, physically, right? And then look and just ask yourself the honest question. Do you feel closer to your goal or further away? Do you feel better? Do you feel worse? Right? Is it really is the benefit of this worth that small amount of time? Because for me, when I work with clients, that's the key, right? Is to get the brain to buy in.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes, and it sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people, but I think most good therapists do take an approach of when a guy first comes to my office, the discussion is a lot less about, hey, we need to make you not relapse at all costs this week. And it's, even though there's obviously that to a degree, but the more focus is on, let's introduce some new healthy behaviors, right?
Yep.
Let's introduce some of these other things, because the more we can buy into those for all the reasons we've talked about, but also once we start to see the results, those other things become less appealing, right? Every addict, I don't care how long they've been in recovery, I have not run across a single person, including myself, who at times, however rare or small it might be, there might be a temptation to go back to those old ways. And I think one of the things that keeps a guy in long-term recovery or change, whether it's a guy or whether it's you and your relationship, right, is when you look back on those old ways of doing things and the consequences and everything, it's not that a sexual release just sounds completely unappealing. It's that I've got something so much better.
Yeah.
Right, than just a cheap fix.
Exactly.
It's almost that question of like, why would I ever want that?
And what we're telling you is if you'll engage in these 2 or 3 simple things each day for 30 days, you're going to find your mind at the end of 30 days looking at those kinds of things. This is kind of cool. Wow, I actually proved to myself that I can do something consistently every day for a month.
Yeah, you get that self-confidence
I like how this
boost,
feels.
more sense of a control, right? More self-worth. Absolutely. I mean, there's
Yep.
far too many. Wow, we've gone way over time. Far too many benefits for what we can list. That's probably my fault.
So there you have it. Happy New Year. And this year, try just trust us and try this different way, right? Ditch the New Year's resolution.
Yes.
And focus on this wonderful concept of little tiny simple systems that I engage in on a daily basis. So there you go.
Happy New Year's, everybody. Have a great one.
That's all for today. Thanks for joining us. And remember, the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. Together, we can do the impossible.
To learn more about Mark and Steve and to listen to more podcast episodes, visit us at pbscpodcast.com. Everything expressed on the PBSC podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.